everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. I wish I could say that my week was peaceful and restful. It was not. Some of you are aware of the multitude of reasons why that is the case. I'm actually like in a really cranky mood this morning. As a result of that, there were a lot of things that happened here. What I didn't say when I announced that I was taking this week off was that my ex was coming to see the kids for the first time in a week and staying in our house because of COVID. So I had my ex-husband here for the entire week last week, and then discovered the day before he left that he'd been exposed to COVID 2 days before he arrived. Notwithstanding multiple negative tests, still in the window of potential infection. So he's gone, which is good. But nonetheless, there's, obvious quarantining happening here until he gets what will then be hopefully a third negative test since he was exposed. It's this thing of having all this, having worked so hard to quarantine up until now, and then potentially having it all put to the side thanks to all of this. So just want to remind all of you, please, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. Do not go to Thanksgiving with your family. Please make alternate plans. It's really significantly important that you pay attention to this right now. The numbers are terrifying. While I was gone from the broadcast for a week, we had more than 1 million new infections. I just want to please ask everyone to not do the wrong thing here. It's bad and it's about to get a lot worse. Please cancel your Thanksgiving plans if you have them, and let's be smart about it. All right. I want to talk about Georgia in particular, because almost 50% of our questions this morning were with regard to Georgia. And as promised, on the last bonus broadcast last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, I told you all that I was going to have more information on that when I got back, and I do. That's the good news. A few things that I just want to say about Georgia in particular. Georgia is incredibly well organized on the ground. I've now had an opportunity to speak with a number of the local organizers, including people from Stacey Abrams' organization, including some of the folks who are actually running down there at the moment. I've been really lucky to be face forward with a number of other organizers down there, like people from Color for Change. And I just want to make something really clear to all of you. It is not a good idea to go to Georgia. There's a number of reasons for that, but I have specifically heard every organizer on the ground in Georgia ask for people to stay home. And one of the reasons why that's the case is that Georgia is organized very well right now by people with established relationships. And one of the things that I wasn't even aware of, like my best friend lives in Atlanta, but I wasn't even aware of this until I was front and center with some of these activists, which is that, in Georgia, if you are, for instance, canvassing in rural Georgia, your accent makes a big difference to whether or not people are going to take you seriously. Who you know and who you go to church with, and who your family knows are really incredibly critical to the influence that you are likely to make. And the other thing that I will just say here is that there is a very big concern right now among the Georgia organizers about white women swooping in to Georgia on the assumption that they know how to do it better than the many, many incredibly established Black organizers who are on the ground. So I want to just encourage those of you who have thought about going to Georgia or who have friends who are going to Georgia to please do the thing that we recommend here all the time, which is allow Black women to lead here, okay? LaTosha Brown is from Atlanta. Stacey Abrams has had a plan to flip Georgia blue for 6 years. For those of you who asked this question, yes, Fair Fight and the Ossoff campaign and the Warnock campaign are all working together. So they don't need our help on the ground right now. What they need, actually, shockingly, on this front, is public awareness in Georgia about the deadlines for the special, meaning the special election. One of the things that is troubling right now is that there were something like 1.7 million absentee ballots requested for the general election. As of this past weekend, only 650,000 had been requested for the special. And there's a lot of query and concern right now about Georgians not understanding that the deadlines for absentee ballots, for instance, are approaching the second week in December. And that voting in person, it's actually December 7th, if I'm remembering correctly. I have tweets about this all over my feed right now. Also, there is concern about people not understanding the deadlines for early voting, people not understanding that the election itself is on the 5th of January. So right now, all the efforts are being dedicated to voter education, and you can do that from anywhere. The other thing I will say here is that Fair Fight, the Ossoff campaign, and the Warnock campaign all have text and phone banking opportunities no matter where you are. And I want to encourage all of you to take part in that, because the hope is that they will be able to reach as many voters as possible with just basic information in advance of those deadlines. The other thing that I have been told here is that somebody raised this as a question on the feed this morning, and so I do want to respond to it, but I've been explicitly told this. This thing that happened toward the end of the general nationwide, where there were people who were already decided and did not like the fact that they were continuing to be text and phone banked, is not a concern in Georgia. In fact, everybody I know who has been texting and phone banking to Georgia over this past week has gotten nothing but a positive response. So, don't worry about that. There's not anybody in Georgia who's going to stay home because you text or phone bank them. In fact, I think the real key here is that we need to get out the information to get out the vote. And also then educate people about the fact that the entire ability of the Biden-Harris administration to affect their agenda turns on the election of Jon Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. So that's really a major issue there. It's just basic voter education. Something else that I learned about Georgia while I was away is that there are no undecided voters in Georgia. In fact, in Georgia, unlike some parts of the country, it's very easy to predict how people are going to vote, mostly on racial lines. So, again, really clear here to make it key that, you're not going to have to pitch to people why they should vote for Ossoff or Warnock. What you have to pitch to people is how they can vote, and that really is one of the absolutely key factors. The other thing is here that newly eligible voters are a really major issue right now in Georgia. There is an enormous quantity of young voters who were 17 at the time of the general, who will be 18 at the time of the special. And we need to get all of those folks registered to vote and out to the polls in one form or another. So, this is really the key thing here is that, I just want to make it clear to you, once again, I can't tell you all how I got this information. What I can tell you is that it's very solid. Can't tell you how. It's very solid, all right? And what I have been told directly to my face is that they really don't want people coming to Georgia, okay? So there is no need to do that. And I really want to encourage all of you to just do the remote stuff that the campaigns are directly asking for, which right now is just about voter education. And really about, phone banking, text banking, getting people registered, getting out the vote, making sure people are requesting absentee ballots. That's what they need in Georgia more than anything else. Also, Warnock and Ossoff are campaigning together. So, this is the other thing, is there's coordination between the campaigns. And like I said, Stacey Abrams is in the middle of this. LaTosha Brown is in the middle of this. Color for Change is in the middle of this. They know what they're doing, okay? This is the support they are asking for. They're not asking for anything else, all right? There was a question raised about poll watchers. Right now, there is going to be a need for Georgia citizens to register as poll watchers. So if you happen to live in Georgia and you want to be a poll watcher for the special, now is your time to sign up to do that. And again, that is something you can do through your local Democratic Party. But I just want to make it really clear here that the instructions that I've been given, that I'm given to all of you, come directly from the campaigns. Okay, so please make sure that you're paying attention to that. Postcards are also welcome, and I will just say that one of the other things that I was explicitly told is that in the South, handwritten notes mean a lot. So postcards are also absolutely one way to go. I do want to caution everybody that we still don't know what the post office is going to do in Georgia for the special. We do know that like McConnell's PAC is pouring money into Georgia, like millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so I don't doubt that, there's a possibility here that that there could be further interference in other ways. Okay. But I do think at this point that we don't have, we've got almost 6 weeks now until the special. We have plenty of time, at least at this point, for postcards and letters to get to voters. So absolutely, mail them early, in other words, because there is a solid chance here, again, that there will become a window in which anything that's dropped in the mail going to Georgia is going to stop. So that is the bulk of the information that I have right now. Now, I just want to say one other thing about this. I'm still in the loop with all the people who are on the ground in Georgia. And obviously, as things change, as we get closer to the special, because I'm sure they will, we're gonna need to shift strategy. But the one thing that I will say that as a final note is always welcome is money. And indeed, because McConnell and some of these conservative right-wing super PACs are pouring money into the Georgia special, they need as much money as they can get. And their Fair Fight Action, I posted this on Saturday. Stacey Abrams' organization has set up a donor site that splits the money evenly between the Ossoff campaign, the Warnock campaign, and Fair Fight Action. That's a really good place to go donate. So again, please make sure that if you can, you are making a donation that supports organizers and the campaigns, because they're going to need all the help that they can get. All right, let's just move on for a second. And Toby was matching also. Yeah, that went really quick. But yes, a lot of us were matching on Saturdays also. That was a coordinated effort, just FYI. All right, so let's talk for a second about the Biden transition, because there were a lot of questions right now about our fair friend Emily in the General Services Administration, which many of you have seen us tweeting about over the last week or so. So there's an official in the Trump administration who we know lied under oath to Congress. And she unfortunately is the person who has control over how transition funds are released by the General Services Administration, the GSA. There is widespread speculation at this point that the reason why she is doing this at the behest of Trump, meaning not releasing transition funds to the Biden transition team, is because she's waiting for a pardon. Now, one of the things that is profoundly dangerous about this is that without the adequate funds that the transition team for Biden needs, they're going to have a harder and slower time ramping up, for instance, to fight the pandemic, ramping up, for instance, to deal with national security threats. There's actually direct information about how this impacted 9/11 from the Bush v. Gore situation that took place in 2000. And that was different. It wasn't that the funds were held up. It was that it took forever to decide the election. So, one of the things I just want to say here, however, is that by holding up these transition funds, this particular person is putting tens of thousands of American lives in jeopardy. It is delaying the ability of the Biden campaign to get access, for instance, to information about how a vaccine might be distributed. And we've had great news on 2 potential vaccines over the last week. That's wonderful. But if the Biden campaign and the Biden administration can't distribute the vaccine adequately, or there is a slowdown in the adequacy of the distribution, that means more people are going to die. So it's a very grave situation. And again, one of the things I said this morning is that even if Trump pardons her, which has not been forthcoming, that may still be challenged in court if she is a co-conspirator in some of Trump's crimes. So, again, I think the public pressure really matters. I will say one of the things that did happen this week was that we got public confirmation that the public pressure on DeJoy during the general election actually stopped the post office from being able to fully execute on its plan to slow down the delivery of ballots. That public awareness, our use of our voices around that issue, modified that situation at least to a certain degree. This is another situation where the more vocal we are about it, the better we are likely to see in terms of an outcome here. So please make sure, she is on Twitter, and, you can hit her up. I've been doing it over and over again. And also please remember that, this is unprecedented. Usually the way that this works is that when the press has called an election, whether or not the electors have yet been certified, those funds are presumptively released. So she is, yes, her handle, Lynn, is GSA Emily. The point of this is that she is trying very hard right now to give the president a leg to stand on. And that's just incredibly dangerous for where we are right now. Okay. As for the national security issues, somebody asked a question about, is there some way that the national security information about Trump and his people could be withheld from Biden? It's not likely. The one thing I'm also just going to add here is that we've known from the beginning that there are aspects of our national security infrastructure that have been profoundly damaged under Trump. That there's national security details that have been withheld from him after that infamous Oval Office meeting with Kislyak and the Russians. We know that there is not a likelihood here that the national security structure is with Trump. So for those of you who are concerned about, is some of this information going to be destroyed or otherwise withheld from Biden, I don't think that that's really possible, frankly. In fact, we know that there have been structures put in place to keep all of that information from Trump in certain instances. So I'm not actually all that concerned about it. Now, we did see this rash of firings at the top of the Department of Defense last week, which did raise some national security concerns without question. However, those firings appear to be motivated, at least in part, to oust people who had previously been critical of the president, particularly for things around the Lafayette Square incident where peaceful protesters were hit with tear gas so he could have his photo op with the Bible. The folks, Esper in particular, that Esper was very vocal after that event. I will tell you that, I saw that as a temper tantrum, which makes me at least a little bit less concerned about it than maybe some others have been. The other thing I will say is that if you have not watched General Milley, the head of the Joint Chiefs, his speech from last week about how soldiers take an oath to the Constitution and not to a given office or a given politician, please go find it. Because the other thing that did was make it very clear that Trump doesn't have the military on his side either, which is something that I've been saying now for quite some time. We've seen signals of that, and now it's very explicit, as explicit as it can be without calling into question the leadership of the commander-in-chief on the record. So I'm not worried about a coup. I hope none of you are worried about it at this point either. I am not at all convinced that he's got a leg to stand on that front. Also, at this point, many of you asked about the lawsuits. There's nothing to worry about there. Trump's record in court right now, as of last night, was 1-22. He's lost 22 consecutive cases. And Mark Elias and his team, who we've talked a lot about here, are doing a phenomenal job. And, I'm on Mark's distribution list now for folks who are, sort of in the know about the legal cases that are ongoing. And there's not a concern here at this point about Trump being able to be successful in any of those cases. The fact that he keeps filing them is not a threat. I want everybody to understand that, okay? And by the way, there's now such massive precedent already established for the challenges that he's raising that, he doesn't even have enough potentially contested votes at this point to even do a remote tiny bit of damage to the result. So we really don't need at this point to worry about that. Okay, well, so as of this morning, it's up to 24. That's great. Last night it was 22. So we're in very good shape on that front. And I frankly am not at this point worried. Trump's going to leave one way or another. And, the prediction that I've made all along, which now a lot of other folks are making also, is that, one of these weekends he's going to take off from Mar-a-Lago and he's just not going to come back. That in some sense would be an ideal outcome, right? He's not going to resign. He's not going to let Pence take over. That's not going to happen, because that in and of itself would be a blow to his narcissism. It would be, in some sense, an admission of loss. Right now, all he's trying to do is get as much money out of his supporters as he can. Those donations that he is at this point trying to pull in are really money that's going into the pockets of his people and himself in large part. They're not going to his campaign any longer, other than to pay off campaign debts. So, we're not in a situation here where at the moment there's a serious emergent threat to our democracy anymore. So let's just take a moment of taking that as a victory, because that's really important. And, understanding as well that, Biden's right about this. The Secret Service, as of January 20th, does not work for Donald Trump anymore. They work for Joe Biden. And one of the things that means is that they can remove Trump from the White House if he's there and he refuses to leave. I still don't think that's going to happen. So in any event, Joe Biden is handling all of this, as I'm sure you all saw last week, with a tremendous amount of grace and dignity and even humor. And he is projecting calm about this situation. And that in and of itself has led to a lot of calm. So, on that front, I also want to raise one other issue here with all of you, because one of the key messages that came through in my conversations over the last few days is this. One of the things that is really profoundly important right now to maintaining the stability of the direction in which we are headed is that we do not repost inflammatory things. So that means don't post video of what happened in Washington, D.C., okay? It means that, Scott Atlas saying that people should rise up against Gretchen Whitmer, that is a tweet you should report but not retweet. And again, one of the things that's incredibly key here is to understand that disinformation and violence that's being recommended is designed to inflame people. And they're counting on us, people who are outraged, to continue that inflammation. So, it is just incredibly important. If I can't lean into it any harder than this. Don't retweet violent videos from the right wing. Don't retweet threats to the safety and security of politicians. Report them, yes. Understand that those politicians are now in touch with the FBI. Gretchen Whitmer, no doubt, has her own security. But honestly, this is a moment to aim for calm, to highlight the work of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as they move into the transition period, to emphasize the positive news that's coming out about what Biden plans to do, because there's a lot of it, and to abandon the need to focus on the drama. Again, I'm just going to say this, you don't need to retweet Trump. At this point, he's all but irrelevant. We're approaching the day where literally nothing that he says will matter. And it's a good moment to just, start to move into that space. I'm also just going to issue a word of caution about one other thing here. Okay. One of the things that I hope comes out of the last 4 years is that we are all much more aware and astute about narcissism when we see it. I am more than a little chagrined about the fact that the new QAnon rep, whose name I'm not even going to say because I just don't even want to dignify her, she's getting a lot of attention for doing crazy shit, right? She's posting her workout video from her hotel room, claiming that no gyms are open in DC when all the gyms are open. I mean, you don't need to give that woman attention, right? The fact that she posed for a picture with, an alleged, we don't even know if it's real, DC cop in full body armor with their badge number covered up. Who gives a shit, right? It is not relevant to where we are. There is no need whatsoever to give that woman airspace. That's what she wants. This is how we got Trump, right? We really don't need to amplify her in any way, shape, or form. We don't need to amplify any of these crazy people anymore. We should direct our attention and our support to making sure that Joe Biden gets what he needs to hit the ground running on day one, and to everything that he is trying to do that's good. So I'm just going to beg you all not to do that. Report, yes. Don't retweet. Don't repost. That's particularly true, by the way, on Facebook, where a lot of this stuff still continues to get massive traction. Okay, so, oh boy. All right, so as for the Biden transition, let me just say a few things about, like, for instance, what we've learned that bodes really well right now, okay? We've learned that Biden is intending to do a number of things on day one through executive order. He's going to protect DACA recipients again. He's going to remove the family separation policy that's currently in place at the border. He's going to set up a committee to try to reunite these missing and separated children with their parents. We know that he's going to try to roll back a number of the initiatives that Trump put into place. In fact, he's going to roll them back by executive order. So there's a lot of really good stuff on deck for the first day of the Biden administration, let alone the first 100 days. And there's, the other thing that I will just say here is that it's very clear for anybody who was worried about whether or not Biden was like listening to the right people and taking advice from the right places. We're in a situation now where 53% of his transition team is female, 46% of his transition team are people of color. And everyone who I've met who is working on that campaign right now at a high level is very committed to progressive ideals. We did have some questions today about cabinet appointments. I'm just not going to go there. I think that at this moment in time, the process is working. The campaign and the transition team are vetting candidates. They're not going to do anything stupid. And the considerations there are beyond, like diversity and inclusion, which in my mind is like got to be one of the things at the top of the pile. But they also go into things like, strategically, who do we need in the Senate? Strategically, who do we think is best in this position? Who is it going to be something that, sets a new standard? For instance, by putting a woman in charge of the Pentagon, there's a woman being considered for that role right now. So, I think we have to let the process work, right? And I also just want to say that I don't think anybody should be afraid at this point of somebody's going to be put in a position where we're going to lose the Senate. They're aware enough of what they're doing that that's not going to be the case. Okay. And I just want to remind you all, sort of circling back. Yeah, Ron Klain was a great appointment. I was really actually super pleased about that. The head of the pandemic response task force under Obama is now the chief of staff for Joe Biden. It kind of doesn't get any more key than that. We need Ron Klain in that role right now, especially given where we are with COVID. So, I think that we're in a situation where we can rely on them to do their best work. And the other thing I just want to say here is that for people who have gotten inflamed about a particular name being tossed around for the cabinet, please be aware of where that information is coming from, right? There is still a deep desire to drive division right now amongst Democrats heading into the Georgia special. And so, somebody asked me about AOC today, by the way. I'm just going to say one thing about that. There should be an ongoing debate about what the Democratic Party represents. What are the ideals that we're living into? And, that's what makes a healthy democracy, is that people can say, I'm not pleased with this particular position this ally has taken, or if this ally really wants to prove their mettle, they should go do X, Y, and Z, AOC is always going to be on the more progressive bent of the party. And honestly, she doesn't lose. So why should we question that, right? Let everybody have their debates. And these are debates that should be had. They're about the future of this country. They're about the future of the party. I'm really not bothered by it. And I don't think anybody else should be either. Public debate is good for all of us if it's done in a way where the debate is about how are we going to make it better, right? How are we going to achieve the goals that we are setting out, right? All of that is really critically important right now. Okay. So we've got, we're heading into this window, and I think we're in really good shape at this point. I'm a lot less scared, frankly, about this window between now and January than I was heading into the election. And I'll also just say that I think that all focus right now, really honestly, from an activating perspective, has to be on Georgia, because the one thing that will stop the landing of progressive change here is us not having the Senate and Mitch McConnell remaining as the majority leader. We've really got to do everything we can to get Ossoff and Warnock elected. And I'll just say one other thing here. having had the opportunity, well, I mean, let me just say this. I have personal reason to know why these two men are ideally suited to be in the Senate from Georgia. I'm very impressed with both of them as politicians. Even if my awareness of them prior to now was not as specific as it is as I sit here right now, they're amazing people. They're amazing people, and they're grounded in all the right things. So it's not just that we need to flip the Senate. It's also that these two men are the right candidates for Georgia right now. Okay. That reminds me, there was one thing I meant to say about Georgia that I did not say when I was talking about it at the top of the broadcast. So let me just add this in really quick. The messaging in Georgia right now is not about COVID. And I want to make something really clear here. For whatever reason, the COVID issue is not resonating with the Georgia electorate in a way that's going to get out the vote. The real issues here have to be about justice, healthcare, and economic security. And if you happen to volunteer to phone bank or text bank with the campaigns, you're going to get exactly this information. And justice means different things to different people, right? Like that's the other thing here is that putting it in the language of access to justice encompasses a lot of things that is meaningful to a broad variety of people, regardless of where they sit. And, indeed, justice may mean one thing in the context of someone who is in the school to prison pipeline or concerned about racial justice. It may mean something else to someone who is concerned about student loans and economic justice and everything else. So justice, healthcare, economic security are really like the primary issues heading into this arena. And, I'm just looking for my notes here because there was one other thing I wanted to say. Access to justice, opportunity, jobs, healthcare. Those are really the primary issues right now in Georgia. Okay. I was asked to remind everybody that the ACA is open for open enrollment right now until the 15th of December. So if you are getting your health insurance through the ACA, please make sure that you either are rolling your plan over, they do that automatically here in California, or that you are changing your plan or signing up. This is your chance to do that this year. It's a good idea to do it now before we have a ruling out of the Supreme Court, even though the Supreme Court seems to be not indicated. It doesn't seem like they're going to gut it based on what happened with the oral arguments last week, but you never know. So that's the right thing to do. Last question that I was asked is like, what are all the things that could happen that could land Trump and his people in prison? So I was asked this question a few weeks ago. I'm going to give the same response that I gave then, which is that the potential crimes that are on deck here for this president, this is one of the reasons why he's clinging on so hard, are so vast and so broad and in so many jurisdictions that it would take me like probably 24 hours to sit here and list them all. I am not worried about this one. Tish James has things lined up. Cy Vance has things lined up. We're going to have to see where that leads to when he's out of office. But I am not worried at this point about a lack of accountability for this president. Reminder, even if he tries to pardon himself or Pence somehow is in a position to pardon him, the pardons do not extend to state and local crimes. And even still, we have a co-conspirator argument that you shouldn't be able to pardon co-conspirators. So none of that has ever been tested. I'm going to remind you all of this. We've never had a president who tried to pardon himself. We're going to be in a situation here where we're going to have to see how this all plays out and how it all unfolds. But I'm not worried about that. Of all the things that I'm worried about, that's not one of them. Okay, that's it for today. Somebody just asked about puppy kindergarten. Donut's doing fine. He's going to puppy kindergarten a few days a week and getting wiped out and, learning how to sit and stay and down and all that other good stuff. And he's huge. He gained, he was 7 pounds when we got him, I think. No, he was 7 pounds the second week that we had him, and now he's almost 12. So he's big, and he's going to get even bigger, and he's the best. So definitely a good addition to the household. All right. I hope you all had a good week. Much love to all of you. I will be here regular time all but one day this week. Wednesday, I am probably going to be here a little early. I think that's correct. Am I looking at this right? Yes, Wednesday I will likely be here at 10 instead of at 11 because of an outstanding group conference call. But I'm here all week, and that's it. We're on the motivation for this, and obviously, again, I just want to really lean hard into the fact that like phone banking, text banking, donations, postcards are all really significant for Georgia right now. But please stay home. They really don't want people on the ground right now. All right, thank you all so much. Much love, and I will talk to all of you tomorrow regular time. Bye.